Welcome to the Back Alley Sports Show. I'm Tony Jankowski. Coming up on today's show, we break down the Packers and Commanders game, talk about Tucker Kraft's magnificent night. We talk about this year's Super Bowl rematch between the Chiefs and the Eagles, along with some Cowboys and Giants talk. We take a deep dive into some injury news after a slew of injuries have swept through the league, including 5 quarterbacks who are now out. Joe Burrow being one of them is expected to miss at least 3 months with turf toe that required a surgical procedure this week. We make division picks and explains our reasons behind them, more rookie and NFL performances and analysis, as well as breaking down the best and worst of the 2-0 teams and the 0-2 teams. All this and more coming up. This is the Back Alley Sports Show. Welcome in. The Back Alley Sports Show back. We're back for week 2. Another episode going down to the books, or in the books, I should say, and another week in the NFL down in the books. What a week in the NFL, boys. My gosh. Standing beside me here, Richard Clement and Devin Ryder, should I say, sitting beside me. Buddy out there in Appleton, Wisconsin, wearing his green, yellow, and white t-shirt, supporting his Green Bay Packers. He's probably really, really happy about what happened there on Thursday night.
Grinning from ear to ear.
You can imagine. I mean, who wouldn't be with the Packers before? So, me, I can't even wear my colors. I can't wear them because, first off, they're not recognizable, and second off, the Titans are still just as bad as they were last year, even with a new franchise quarterback. Heard that you just went through an appointment. You had a major procedure done today.
Very big.
We know that you, as a Green Bay Packers fan, don't see very well. Your eyes are strewn all over the place. Tell us what happened today with your eye appointment.
So basically I had an eye appointment today, and they told me that I had to be dilated or whatever to, see my eyes correctly. And I said, well, I kind of got something going on tonight. Is there something, like, some way I can get out of it? And they're like, there is, but you got to pay for it. And I was like, no, I'll be bug-eyed for the stream. So if you see my eyes, hopefully not. They're a little bit dilated, so.
Well, hopefully it'll help you envision a better Packers season. I couldn't envision better than what's going on for them now, because there's a lot of good things obviously going on in Green Bay and
nobody wants that.
Weeks, but does anybody honestly want to see the Green Bay Packers succeed outside of your fan base, Devin? I'm just curious to know what people think, about Green Bay outside of. Do you have friends that aren't Green Bay fans that troll you, or they're not what they are, or anything like that?
What's there to troll about?
Oh, we're going to get into it. We got some film breakdown that we can troll. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later in the episode. There is a lot going on in the NFL this week, boys. Want to go ahead and dive into some of the stuff that we saw. Obviously, tons of games this weekend, packed full of action. I've come down from my week 1 high of where I feel like everything is so, it's an eye test, like in week 1, right? For me, like everything. You can listen to all the sports books, or, all the people that talk about the NFL and who they think is going to win, experts that you listen to, whether it be on the radio or on the TV. And for me, it's a really big eye test. And some of that in week 1 was what teams can carry over the success in week 1 into week 2 and carry that over. Obviously, Green Bay did that. We saw an excellent game out of Dallas and the Dallas Cowboys against the Giants, and we're going to break that down with Richard here. But the big headline, I believe, this week, and you guys can correct me if you feel this isn't the biggest headline, but we've got 5 quarterbacks that are not going to be playing in week 3, and they're pretty big teams. They're big in their spots. First guy, obviously, the biggest headline I want to talk to you guys about is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is got the turf toe injury. Adam Schefter reported on ESPN that he's going to be out for the quote was at least 3 months. this is a huge injury that I wanted to bring up with you guys based on. We'll talk about some contract stuff coming up when we break the game down, but expected to be out for 3 months. He's being replaced by Jake Browning. Devin, we'll go ahead and let you lead us off here with how detrimental of an injury this is to the Cincinnati Bengals, with Joe Burrow being out for what could be a season, depending on the record, a season-ending injury.
Yeah, so obviously this is a huge blow to the Bengals. Not only is it a huge blow to the Bengals, it's a huge blow to the league because he's, NFL's top quarterback. He was the passing yard leader last year, but it's also detrimental to my fantasy team. Like, what are we doing here? I need this guy to perform for me every week, and now he's gone. Luckily, I was able to pick up Jake Browning, who did put up solid numbers after Joe Burrow left. If I remember correctly, no interceptions when he was replaced. Is that correct?
I don't believe he had any interceptions. I'll have to pull up the
Yeah.
stats.
Yeah, so he played really well. He was just tossed into the game. He performed very well, but yeah, huge blow to the Bengals. Luckily for the Packers, the Bengals are coming up in the Packers schedule in the next couple weeks here. So that's definitely going to be something that the Packers are going to have to game plan around. Not, going after Joe Burrow, but going after, what's his name? Jake Browning, right? So a little bit of a different game plan. They might switch up the offense. This will be something we'll have to watch going into week 3 if they change the offense, or if it's just going to be the same old Bengals. Throw it in the air and hope for the best.
Yeah, this being the third time that Joe Burrow's had a major injury in his career, and I pulled up those stats for you. He had 113 yards, a touchdown, no picks in the Cleveland game, only 76 yards before he went down in the second quarter with a touchdown interception. Richard, what do you make of this Joe Burrow situation that's going on in Cincinnati right now?
Well, it's going to hurt them in two ways because they just re-signed their defensive tackle to a 1-year deal. You just wasted that 1-year deal, especially without Joe Burrow. I don't see Browning being able to carry Cincinnati. Joe Burrow, even last year, he had an amazing seasons in every stat. If you want to talk about what a true MVP looks like, that was Burrow last year. They were going to need that same play this year. I don't think their defense got better. I think it got worse. So I foresee them. They were borderline making the playoffs without, when you take Joe Burrow out of it, I can pretty much say, I don't foresee them making the playoffs, at all this year. So I think it turns their year into a dud year. I didn't pick him up in fantasy, so yay me. But I got Lamar Jackson, so I mean, let's be honest. I may win, I may lose. Who knows? But no, their season, I would say, for Cincy is pretty much cooked without their run game isn't all that great. So yeah, that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I do apologize about that production there with the music coming back there. Another big injury that was shocking, and we've got several of these to talk about, but J.J. McCarthy now out for the Minnesota Vikings. Promising rookie last year, didn't get to play in the regular season. Now he's out with a high ankle sprain.
We need to clear one thing up. No, in his last game, Browning actually threw for 2 touchdowns and he had 3 interceptions.
Well, he definitely did pick Cincinnati up. I mean, they did win the game.
They won the game, but those 3 interceptions, it shows that he's weak with that. But yeah, he threw 3 interceptions in Jaguars, but he pulled it out. Jaguars just kind of jaguared themselves. But no, 3 interceptions in what was it, half a game? That could be a problem. So maybe they can clean that up. So, but yeah, just to clarify.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about that J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota. He's out 2 to 4 weeks with that high ankle sprain. Obviously had that big issue last year with the injury, didn't get to play any, and now comes back and he's injured. Carson Wentz will be coming in for J.J. McCarthy. Minnesota's got a lot of answers to questions to answer there. Jaden Daniels, day-to-day with a knee sprain, being replaced by Marcus Mariota. Head coach for Washington did say that they expect Daniels to be day-to-day. It's not a week-to-week deal. Justin Fields is in concussion protocol. He's being replaced by Tyrod Taylor. And also, Brock Purdy is week to week with that toe injury. Mac Jones came in and showed that he could play. It seemed like he had a pretty good game and filled in very well, especially with we talked about last week Christian McCaffrey's calf injury, ailing calf injury that's been keeping him not at 100%. Khalil Mack, Ian Rappaport reported this morning, dislocated shoulder for the Chargers. He is not expected to be out long term. This is maybe a 3 to 4 week injury. And then the big one, along with Jaden Daniels in Washington, Austin Eckler out with that Achilles injury. What a horrific injury that was. Richard, we'll go to you here and get your intake on some of these injuries and what they mean to those teams.
So obviously the Jaden Daniels one jumps out. McCarthy's good. McCarthy being out for the Vikings is an issue, mainly because he's a second-year player. You don't really know what you got from him. You had one game where he struggled in the beginning and then won the game at the end. Looked great. He didn't necessarily look all that great in this game. So I would say as a Vikings fan, you're really not sure what you got out of him. And now you're in your second year, and you only got 3 more years. With the 5th-year option, which could be an issue. And then Jaden Daniels is an issue for Washington just because he is a smaller in stature. So I'd like to see his offensive line right now is not looking great. Washington just in general just isn't looking great. I think that's kind of another victim of, yelling that somebody's elite during their rookie season. So that's an issue. Eckler's veteran presence at the running back is going to be a huge miss for them. Justin Fields, I'll be honest, it could be a problem for the Jets, but Tyrod Taylor does a decent job as a backup, and Brock Purdy, again, half their wide receiving course back. I know Jennings came back, and he actually had a pretty decent day. I think Mac Jones will fill in well for him. Khalil Mack is a notable injury. But I'd say none of them are necessarily, season ending. I know there were question marks about the Vikings. I think the Jaden Daniels one's going to hurt, especially for 2 to 4 weeks, but Mariota can probably hold it enough. But yeah, that could be a problem for Washington moving forward.
Having technical difficulties with Devin currently, just to let you guys know there on the stream. We're going to try and get that remedied as soon as we can there. Yeah, I mean, for me, obviously, all of those are big injuries. I mean, all of those quarterback injuries they're serious injuries, and they are injuries that are not easily replaced. You can't replace Jaden Daniels. You can't replace Joe Burrow. We'll see what Carson Wentz can do. I mean, he's had strides where he's good and then he's not very good. It'll be really interesting to see what that looks like, going forward for these teams, how much this is going to hinder them and, how that quarterback, play is going to be. And, we're going to talk about some of the contracts with the Bengals. That Joe Burrow injury to me is the biggest injury out of all of them. Just because of the amount of money that has been invested into T. Higgins, into Jamar Chase, into Hendricks, and into the other players that they surrounded around Joe Burrow. And, I think that's a huge deal. Want to talk about the Titans and the Rams to kick this thing off for the Sunday games, and try to tail that Packers game back a little bit while we're working on those technical difficulties with Devin. Cam Ward, absolute beautiful throw. His first touchdown pass, Richard, over the middle, cross his body. A throw that you and I talked about pre-show. This isn't a throw that you want to be making as a rookie quarterback or as a quarterback in general across your body. But, he made it work. Gets his first touchdown pass. He goes 19 to 33 for 175 yards. But for me, it was a lot of the same for the Titans. And I talked on some of the radio shows this week that I call into. The Titans look slow. They lack speed and they lack aggressiveness on that offensive line, and they lack execution. And Calvin Ridley's dropping passes. L'Jarius Sneed is getting beat by Devontae Adams left and right all over the field. Um, I, there are a lot of Titans fans here in Nashville that were calling for Brian Callahan's head after week 1 of the season. They wanted him gone. They were calling for Denard Wilson to be a savior and this guy, this defensive wizard that's going to turn the Titans around. And then you give up 23 points to Matthew Stafford and Devontae Adams in the second half. Puka Nacua almost had 100 yards in that game. He had one rush for 45 yards. When I look at the Titans, Cam Ward has been sacked 11 times in the first 2 weeks, 6 last week, 5 this week. Penalties weren't picked up. Help me out with my Titans, man. What's going on with these guys?
Your offensive line struggles, and your run game is, I would dare say, non-existent. I know you're a big Tony Pollard fan, but you need a every down back, and you need to be able to run it up the middle and break and have a running back that can break tackles in the backfield, especially with that offensive line. They're going to need to be able to break those tackles. Tony Pollard, he doesn't have it. So I would say if you can establish a run game, I think your defense will be fine. I have a little bit more faith, I think, in your secondary than maybe you do. I don't think you need to be firing anybody. We're way too early in the season to be talking about firing this person and hiring somebody else. If you put yourself into that position, then I would say you're more going towards the Bears, and that would just be a mistake. Don't ever, because for example, the Bears like to hire a head coach, draft a quarterback, fire the head coach, then get rid of have a new head coach in, then get a new quarter. Don't get in that cycle. Let it play out with the coach. Let your rookie build into it, and maybe he can find a way that instead of having Cam sit back and try and be a passing quarterback, move the pocket a little bit, allow him to go to the left, allow him to go to the right. Maybe then you can get Calvin Ridley maybe a little bit of space. I don't see him creating a whole lot of space between him and his corners, but so maybe you can scheme them open. So I would say just play around with the scheme a little bit, move the pocket around a little bit, allow Cam just a little bit more of a second to do the read. I understand everyone's really excited about that across the body and across the field throw. I hate those throws. I think taking those, even though they work occasionally, you don't really want your quarterback doing that. I know he's kind of in a desperation mode, but I didn't like the throw. I thought it was just lucky more than it was arm strength or talent. His placement was nice, but you have faith in your arm, that's fine. You have faith in your wide receiver, that's fine. But there's a reason why there's a CB out there, and they can close in really, really quick. That could have went sideways with nobody able to stopping that CB if he got his hands on it. So that was my view as far as that goes. I would say there is a little bit of solace in the fact that it was Matthew Stafford with Devontae Adams and Puka didn't break for over 100 yards, and you held him to 23 points. You can take a little solace in that. Matthew Stafford is one of the better quarterbacks in the league, and is very good against defenses and getting rid of the ball very quickly. And Puka is very hard to stay with. So if you're talking about your defense being slow, Puka is a great route runner, and he's incredibly fast. So he does make people look slow. Devontae Adams is a veteran. He's very savvy with his route running. He knows how to find a zone. He knows how to do all of that. So the fact that it was only 23 points versus the Rams and all of that, and a run game, Williams can run it down your throat and be a big problem. He wasn't necessarily a problem for y'all. So I wouldn't necessarily be London Bridge is burning when it comes to the Titans defense, but I will say that bridge is burnt when it comes to your offensive line. That I
Yeah, I
cannot
mean,
express how much that offensive line
we're
is
with
bad.
already without J.C. Latham on the right side. He's already injured, and haven't gotten the full context of his hip injury. It's a hip injury, and who knows how long that hip injury could end up lasting.
Right.
It could be an eternity, and the run game hasn't been really solid. You know, the Titans played good in the first half, but they really just played awful in the second half.
Right.
Outscored 23-6 there. I will say the one thing in Cam Ward's defense, in terms of in comparison to Brian Callahan last year and this year, he hasn't turned the ball over yet. And through your first two games as a rookie, I think if there's anything in comparison to him to Will Levis, it's the fact that he's not turning the ball over, or yet he's not turning the ball over yet. Bengals and Jags, we were just talking about Joe Burrow out for 3 months with that turf toe injury requiring surgery. A disaster brewing in Cincinnati. Talking about those contracts, you just signed Joe Burrow to that 5-year, $275 million deal recently. Jamar Chase had the 4-year, $161 million extension. T. Higgins got a 4-year, $115 million extension. Orlando Brown is on a 4-year, $64 million deal. And Trey Hendrickson, his agreement was reached for 3 years at $33 million there. So a lot of money invested into that offensive line. The Bengals are obviously going to need great quarterback play out of Jake Browning there in Cincinnati. Their schedule looks really tough, including coming up. They got the Vikings, they've got the Broncos, they've got the Lions, they've got the Packers, and then the Steelers. All 5 of those coming up. How big are these signings and the money that they've invested? Because I don't think I'd have to go back and look at the salary cap room that they have, Richard, but I don't feel like they have a lot of room remaining to go out, and even if they wanted to get somebody. So what do you think about all that?
I mean, I'd say they were their salary cap is atrocious, which is why they struggled with Hendrickson trying to re-sign him and everybody else. I don't when it comes to salary cap, they're kind of in trouble. I thought that losing T. Higgins made more sense. Letting him go and then signing Jamar Chase, keeping him, having that one massive threat that Jamar is. I don't understand why they paid T. Higgins as much as they did for a 4-year extension. I thought that was crazy. I do like how they upgraded the offensive line. You do need to be able to protect your quarterback, no matter who it is, whether it's Browning or it's Burrow. You do need that. But whatever salary cap they have left has to go to the defense. If they don't figure out how to fix that defense, then you're requiring yourself to win in shootouts. And I don't think anybody really wants to have to do a shootout to win a game anymore. So I don't think that necessarily plays in Cincinnati's favor, especially without Joe Burrow. If Burrow was in, you probably win that matchup. You could win that matchup, but right now where they're sitting, those signings don't necessarily guarantee you go to the playoffs right now, at least from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, dude, losing Joe Burrow is going to be it's going to be huge for that entire team, honestly. I honestly am not entirely sure how you can recover from losing Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, honestly. I know that you were happy about the Cowboys-Giants game this past weekend. 77 points. Pure entertainment and joy for our buddy Richard there, big Cowboys fan. Cowboys beat the Giants for the 9th straight time. Dak has beaten the Giants for a 14th straight time. Dak Prescott hits George Pickens for 6 yards and the touchdown with 52 seconds remaining in regulation. But just 2 plays later, here comes Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson moves down the field, The Giants score. Dallas gets the ball back. Less than 30 seconds to go. Sets up Brandon Aubrey for a game-winning 64-yard field goal. Let's take a look here on the screen. Break it down for us, Richard.
So now, when it comes to the Cowboys and Giants game, I know Russell Wilson had a great job, but I'm going to tell you right now, as if Aubrey's on the field, it doesn't matter where you place him, he's going to make it. So I'm super stoked about that, especially after we had Greg the leg, but his leg was kind of broken. So I love seeing it. I love seeing Dallas be able to run the ball. I like the way I'm seeing Williams run the ball, that's something we were missing. It's been a while since we had someone able to do what Williams is doing. I know he's not going over 100 yards, but we don't really need him to. We just need him to be able to run the ball and get us anywhere from 3 to 4 yards a carry, and allow Dak to sit there and pick apart the defense. When you have someone like Ferguson who's reliable, you have CeeDee Lamb, Pickens, you have weapons on the offense that allows you to win games like this. I know people are going to scorch the Cowboys secondary, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. But I would because the one thing I don't see anybody talking about is the Cowboys secondary isn't just bad. It's kind of obliterated right now. We're still waiting. We're still waiting for Bland to make his return. He played against the Eagles, but he's questionable for the next couple of weeks. So we're not entirely sure when he's going to return. So I would say, and that's a big deal, whether you like him or not, or you think he's one of the best or not. He is one of the best on the Cowboys, if not the best on the Cowboys. They did move him to slot, which is exactly where Russell Wilson was just scorching the Cowboys. So that'll play a role. Our third round pick is still trying to recover from his ACL tear, along with others. The two corners that we had playing for us this past week, they weren't with the team last year. Trayvon Diggs is just getting back to the Cowboys after his ACL tear, and now he's just returning. He wasn't projected to come back to the Cowboys till probably the third or fourth week, so he might have come back a little bit early, and he's playing in a new defense under Matt Eberflus. So that plays that'll play the role when it comes to the Cowboys secondary. The only thing that they cannot justify, in my personal opinion, would be Donovan Wilson. Donovan Wilson is our safety. So, and in both occasions where you see Russell Wilson launching the long ball, my issue is when you're running zone and you have two deep safeties, there is no excuse why I am seeing the back of your jersey behind the wide receiver in the end zone. There's no reason for that. You know what they're going to do. You know they need the touchdown. There's no reason for him to be behind you. So that is a big deal. I know people want to scorch Trayvon Diggs for the touchdown that was scored on him, but again, ACL tear. I'll grace him with maybe a week to get back in the feeling, understand the defense a little bit more. But yeah, secondary needs work, but at the same time, they are banged up and they don't have a lot that they can work with right now. So the secondary is what it is right now, and Eberflus needs to figure out how to make that work. And at least tell his safeties do not let that any of those wide receivers behind you. That to me, that's just unacceptable. I would like to point out, while Russell Wilson did play very well, so there's two parts to this. One, it's Russell Wilson. Every year he's good for 2 to 3 of these games where, hey, look, Russell Wilson's back to his old form. He did it with Pittsburgh. He did it with the Jets. He did it in his final couple of years in Seattle. The question on whether or not Russell Wilson can put up big numbers was never the issue. The issue is, could he do it consistently? And that's kind of where he struggled, was the consistency of his big plays. And a lot of times it would be whether or not his offensive line was good enough. But you can get 1 to 2, maybe even 3 games of Russell Wilson putting up big numbers. It's the remainder of the 15 games that people start to question whether or not Russell Wilson is your guy when it comes to that. So, but I will say, even though he scorched for, I think it was over 400 yards, and looked really good, Dallas's defense was in fact pressuring him. He wasn't necessarily just standing in the pocket and just, letting it rip tater chip. He had pressure. Solomon Thomas was getting up the middle. Clark actually got his sack after we traded away Parsons and got him from Green Bay. He got a sack. So we do have a young rookie trying to be on the defensive end. So, he was starting to get pressure, didn't get a sack. So I will say the defensive line did look better. Not much to say about the linebackers. They did play up, stopped the run pretty decently. So I was rather happy with that. Defensive line did look pretty well. They kept the Giants rushing under 100 yards. So the rushing was actually pretty good. With a run stop was actually pretty decent. It was just a secondary. And so with the secondary that's banged up, it's not necessarily an excuse. It's just more of a, hey, they don't really have what they thought they would going into the season. And it does kind of lend into the fact of Jerry Jones is, I didn't want to pay somebody because they could get hurt. I think a really good example of that is Bland. He signed with the Cowboys for his $50 million guaranteed 4-year deal with the Cowboys on August 31st. By September 8th, he was questionable. So it does lend to that, and you can point out to a bunch of times where that happened. Tavon Diggs was one. Martin was another one, our center. Speaking of, we just lost our center for the next couple of weeks. We lost him near the end of that game for the Giants, so that's going to be a problem. Huffman's going to have to come in and step in, and which he generally does. He does okay, but you already saw a little bit of issues early with the botch snap, whether that's on him or that's on Dak. It doesn't really matter whose fault it was, but it could be an issue, and that's going to be something they'll have to address with the offense. But the offense will be able to put up points. The question is, will the secondary be able to mask some of their issues going forward throughout the year? Can Matt Eberflus, kind of tame that issue a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I got to take a look at this clip of Brandon Aubrey again, just absolutely annihilating the 64-yarder here. And
That made me thirsty.
What a big kicker this is. Just in your, as a fandom, how happy are you to see that kick and to be able to to see that? You got me there, Richard?
So,
oh, sorry about that.
yeah, you were muted, buddy.
Yep. Did it last week, did it this week. There's a couple of production issues tonight. I do apologize, but I was just showing that clip again of Brandon Aubrey hitting that 64-yarder. And just as a fan, how happy were you to be able to see that kick and how good of a kicker is Brandon Aubrey just in general?
I love the fact I love the kick. Matter of fact, my father-in-law is an Eagles fan. He hit me up and he's like, congratulations on the Cowboys win. Hope you enjoyed it. So I do enjoy it. I would like to point out that I'm only 38 and I would like to be able to watch a Cowboys game and not need a pacemaker. So if we could, I love seeing him kick 64-yarders. We can keep going with that. I'm good with that. But yeah, if we could just have him kick it and us have a good lead, I'd prefer that way more because I don't need a pacemaker right now because that game about killed me.
Yeah, definitely. 64 yards, 46 yards, and it was 4 for 4 in the game. It was definitely. I think that Joey Sly is the new Brandon Aubrey. I just want to go ahead and put this on the map. Joey Sly is the new Brandon Aubrey. Joey Sly can kick a ball from 77 if he wanted to. Titans would never let him, but he could do it if he wanted to. I promise you that.
Is your back okay? I'm just trying to figure out
from
how many.
Which aspect?
Well, how many muscles did you pull for that reach?
Joey Sly is a pretty good kicker.
Okay.
They said that he could kick it from 70 in practice, and he was hitting it right down the middle.
Cool. Aubrey probably. Okay. All right. All right. Look,
Commander,
when he can consistently outside 50, never miss, we can have that conversation.
he won't. Put him on College Game Day, kicking for $100,000. It's going down the middle every time from 70.
Okay. Well,
Double it from 35, make it 70. He's going every time. Could you make
no.
that kick on game day? Could you make a 35-yard field goal?
I couldn't do it at any point.
I don't think I can make a 3.5-yard field goal, let alone a 35-yard field goal.
I haven't kicked a football in the air ever. Every time I kick a football, it just rolls on the ground.
64 yards from the other side of the star. From the other side of the star. This guy's kicking from his own 46.
Oh yeah. That's not surprising. And Schottenheimer knows what he has with his kicker, especially when you're in midfield and you're handing the ball off. At that point, I don't think there's any way you can say that he doesn't trust what Aubrey can do, because he sat there and he handed it off when you're on the 50.
I bet they trust him.
And you need a field goal.
If you need a field goal,
they trusted him
all
last
you need
year.
to do is get to the 46 or 47-yard line.
Yeah.
And really, if you got to the 50, I think that there would be a real opportunity for them to say 67.
Oh yeah, he's hit. I'm pretty. I'd have to look, but I'm pretty sure his longest was over 66 yards. He's had long kicks, so he's done it before, which is why you trust him so much. I would say if the Cowboys really want to do something really intelligent, other than bringing Clowney in like they had done, I'd say sign Brandon Aubrey like now. And we'll just call it. I'll be okay with however many years you want to do and however much money you want to do. I'll be okay with that.
We have Devin back with us live on the stream. I have been trying to work this mid-show, by the way. I'm really, our production values are being tested. I was able to make double box screens and get us all back in here. Devin, welcome back. Hope everything is going okay.
Appreciate you.
We were just talking about Brandon Aubrey's 64-yard field goal, and we were just getting ready to get into the Commanders-Packers, which, lo and behold, is right up your alley. And I know you're excited to talk to us about this. Commanders-Packers, all right? Let's get right into it right here.
All right.
Commanders-Packers defense controls the game. 2024 Offensive Rookie of the Year, 60% completion rate, being sacked 4 times. Devin, break down this Packers-Commanders game for us.
So like we've seen in early games, Micah Parsons was still on a snap count. Not much has changed there. He did ramp up just by playing a couple more snaps than he did before. He did still wreak havoc. He didn't get any full sacks. I think he had a half a sack. But like we were saying before, Micah Parsons makes everybody around him that much better. You got guys like Gary who had a sack. Even Edwin Cooper, a linebacker, had a sack in the game. The constant pressure in the game had Jaden Daniels on his knees, literally. At the end of the game, he was looking in rough shape. He was limping a little bit, which we've seen with the knee strain, which I did think happened at the very end of the game. So yeah, all around the defense played amazing. Defense continues to play great. The offensive side of the ball, we've seen a couple new things from the offense. Savion Williams, I don't know if you're familiar with him, Tony, at all. You watch a bunch of college football, but the receiver out of TCU, kind of known as like the gadget player. Yep. Kind of known as like the gadget player. He played a little bit of quarterback, a little bit of wide receiver, a little bit of running back. Got a little bit of a Taysom Hill vibe in him. You know, he's a great player. You have some tricks up your sleeve with that guy. So we've seen the Wildcat offense with him this week. We've seen Matthew Golden with a reverse. So we've seen that. And then the other thing I want to point out with Golden is Golden had 2 opportunities to catch a home run ball, touchdown pass of more than 30 yards, right? Jordan Love misses the throw, but only 2 targets. we spent a first round pick on this guy to be our wide receiver 1, and he's not getting targets. So is this just another death cycle of another Packers wide receiver? Just, another guy in the system playing that carousel of, all right, is it my turn this week? Or is it Jaden Reed's week? Or is it Romeo Doubs' week? Or is it Golden's week? Like, we don't know whose week it is. This week it was Tucker Kraft, the tight end. He went for 2 touchdowns, 124 yards. So I don't know if it's like work him into the offense. They don't know what the best way to use him in the offense is. I don't know if it's a connection issue with Love and Golden. We did see this in Rodgers' years. Rodgers never liked rookies. They were never on the same page. I don't know if it's kind of like that. I know it's not going to be exactly like that because Rodgers and Love are 2 completely different players. I don't know if it's going to be, like I said, I don't know if it's going to be like this forever, if it's going to change. But all I know is that during the draft, everybody was hooping and hollering about drafting a wide receiver first time since 2009 or whatever the date was. But as of right now, as a Packer fan, it's kind of setting a little bit of worry in the offensive side of the ball, knowing that our first round draft pick is essentially just being a waste because you're not producing for us on the field.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Tucker Kraft and how big of a performance that was, because that for me, for NFL performances, is my best performance of the week. How big was it to have Tucker Kraft, play the way that he did and produce the way that he did? And can you remember a time where was this a breakout for Tucker? Or is this something that Tucker's done previously for you guys?
I wouldn't say it's a breakout. It's definitely his career high in yards. He's definitely had a lot of good performances last year. Jordan Love does like passing to the tight ends. It might not look like it some weeks, but when he gets into that tight end mood, you're going to see the ball a lot, which we've seen this last week. He had 6 receptions for 124 yards. Tucker Kraft just knew where the seams were in the defense. I don't know if that was preparation with Matt LaFleur or Tucker Kraft knowing the defense that well. But yeah, he was hitting those seams hard. Love got him the ball in open space. Tucker Kraft is very good in space. He's a bulkier guy, but he can still move in open space. He's not going to have that breakaway speed, but he'll get you some tough earned yards.
I know Richard had some film that he wanted to break down, and Richard, we'll let you get into breaking down some of these clips that you had. But as we do that, what were your thoughts on the Packers and Commanders game?
Well, when it comes to the Packers, their defense just it looked good again. Jaden Daniels never looked comfortable in the pocket. They never looked like they ever could get a run game to going against the Packers defense. So all in all, I'd say the defense played exactly the way you would expect them to play, especially after the first game. When it comes to Jordan Love, and most of this is not necessarily calls for panic, but if you pull up the first clip that I had showed you, I do worry about the placement of where he's throwing some of these balls. The first one's going to be a nice little throw out to Wicks, but it's behind him. If you throw that out in front of him, he has a chance. I'm not saying he's gonna win it and he's gonna go to the house, but you at least give him a chance to get out of that and start running it up the field. So that placement is a little bit of a concern. The next one will be to Kraft, who had an amazing game. If you pull that one up here, my biggest issue with this one is it's a nice route by Kraft, and Love needs to put it on him. He has to slow down for it, and the safety's able to flip his hips and get to him. If he puts it on him, the safety might not be able to get it to him in time or get to him in time, but it's still a very nice play. But the biggest problem I have is the next clip, the throw to, I believe it's Golden, actually, who had a chance at a home run shot. Now, this one is inexcusable, mainly just because he's got 3 steps on the CB. There is no reason why you underthrow this. You cannot underthrow this. I get that first things first is trying to call Jordan Love J-Lo, and I love that nickname, but there is no reason why this CB right here turns into Akon and smacks it down. You had him by 3 steps. There's no reason for this. Lead your receivers, because the problem that's going to be is when you come up against a playoff team, which arguably people are saying Washington will be a playoff team, these throwing lanes get a heck of a lot slower. You can't have these type of throws. That's really the only thing I would say. And it's not really a knock. It's just more of a, hey, we got time. Start placing the ball in better places. Lead your receivers. They're young. I mean, if I remember, you have one of the youngest teams in the NFL. They're going to learn. Give them a chance at it. There's no reason why you have a wide receiver who is wide open, falling on his butt, waiting for a ball to come that the CB just knocks away. So other than that, they looked great. I think if they fix this stuff, this will change Jordan Love having a good season to we're talking about him like he's Josh Allen. Like if you just fix that little bit, we're talking not just Super Bowl contender, but Jordan Love can win the MVP. And now all of a sudden he can win Super Bowl MVP. Fix that little bit, and I think Jordan Love is going to be absolutely devastating to anybody he goes up against. If you just fix that little bit, and that is fixable. I believe personally that's fixable, and I think Love has the talent to be able to make up for that. What do you think, Devin?
Yeah, so just to tail off of that, as we've seen in the clip, it was underthrown. There's no excuse for this. One thing I did notice with the clip, though, is that he went left side first. His first read was on the left side, and then he went over to the right, seeing Golden, did underthrow him, which isn't something new with Jordan Love. Let's not act like this is something new. He's always had problems placing the ball in the right spot. Early on in his career, first, second year, it would be a 5-yard pass, and the ball would be very high, and the receiver would have to go jump for the ball, and then you have to come down and then worry about where the defense is. Or it would be, way out in front of them or way behind them so that they can't even make a play at all. So this is not something new. We did see how devastating this could be for the Packers in the, I think it was NFC Championship game against the Niners. We had that very, very costly, to put it nicely, crossbody throw to the left side of the field that got intercepted that ended the Packers' run that year. So that was a little bit more decision making rather than, ball placement. But those mistakes do cost you games. It doesn't matter if it's a regular season game or if it's playoff game. Those kind of decisions and ball placement and all those abilities that make up your quarterback do win or lose you games at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, whose cross-body throw was better? Cam Ward's first NFL touchdown throw or your playoff defeating throw? Probably Cam Ward's. It was probably Cam
I think
Ward's.
that's pretty self-explanatory there.
I mean,
interception or touchdown? Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Way to softball that one in there. And you know what? Are we going to sit here and plug Cam Ward every time we talk about a quarterback?
Cam Ward is – I'm not going to say what I said last year about Cam Ward as I did Will Levis. And, Devin, last year I was – before the beginning of the season, Will Levis was he was God. He was just like he was going to be this guy that resurrected Tennessee into stardom. And
you should trade back for Malik Willis. I heard he's on the block.
All right. The Philadelphia Eagles, boys, they went into Arrowhead Stadium and they went and defeated Kansas City. They went and took their Super Bowl crown. In my opinion, they said, we're still here. We're still the team to beat. Jalen Carter, not suspended anymore. Philadelphia, wow, they played either a really good game defensively or Kansas City's offense is just sputtering. And I know there's injuries with Rashee Rice in Kansas City and, we talked last week about Xavier Worthy coming back from the leg injury. Um, Eagles return win 20-17. Chiefs are 0-2. They're now at the bottom of the division. We talked last week again how big just being one game down with the rest of the teams in the division having that one leg up, and now the Chiefs are 2 games down. Um, Xavier Worthy missed this game. Jalen Royal missed this game. The tush push was back, and it was as good as it ever has been. Uh, Richard, let's start with you there. What did you see in Kansas City, and what's your breakdown with the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, from the Eagles aspect of it, it's a win, but I find myself in the same place I was last year. They're winning, but they don't look right. Something just doesn't look right. 'Cause I think if you look at every game they played in the playoffs last year, they looked good. Jalen Hurts looked great.
Can I just say too, while you're saying that the Philadelphia Eagles really beat down the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Let's not forget that the Eagles were up, I think, 30 something points before Kansas City scored their 41-22, I think it was. But the Eagles dominated that game.
Right. And then if we add in the fact of they had an interception in the end zone, which, hey, props to the corner for catching it, and then had a great return. That was a wonderful return, getting chased down. He did get chased down by an offensive lineman, a rookie offensive lineman, and I'm sorry, but you cannot be a corner and getting run down by a 275 plus pound guy. But that was a Kelce drop. That wasn't a Patrick Mahomes interception. That was a Kelce interception.
Absolutely.
It hit him in the hands and it was in the end zone. So granted, almost doesn't count for anything other than horseshoes, but neither one of them really looked good. So one was bound to run away and take a win from it. I do know that you had Jones talking smack to Hurts and Hurts saying, "Shut up, I got the win." He is right. He did get the win. But again, I find myself looking at the Eagles in the regular season going, this doesn't look good. Like, you're winning, but it doesn't look good. And I would say the difference between Kansas City and the difference between the Eagles are healthy and don't look good. Kansas City doesn't look good, and they're missing half their wide receiving core. Patrick Mahomes, and correct me wrong if you think it differently, Devin, but it feels like Patrick Mahomes is playing like he doesn't trust his offense to win, that he has to win the game. What do you think?
I mean, why should he trust anybody outside of Travis Kelce? I mean, these guys are playing with like 4-stringers. I mean, Tyquan Thornton, I can't remember if he got released or traded from the Pats. He was a nobody in Foxborough. Hollywood Brown, he's been, on the low for quite some time now. I mean, Pacheco, their running back who was there, Kareem Hunt. I mean, none of these guys are worth saying much about. I mean, Kelce is the only one that's been there for, the ups and the downs of all their dynasty years. I mean, if I'm Mahomes, I'm not trusting anybody but Kelce to make a catch right now. I mean, don't get me wrong. Thornton had a great game, 2 receptions for 59 yards and a touchdown. But yeah, if I'm Patrick Mahomes, I'm not really trusting anybody on this offense outside of him. One thing to note about the Eagles, though, I'm actually pretty concerned for this Eagles offense outside of Saquon Barkley. Hurts hasn't thrown a single touchdown this year. Not a single touchdown.
Has he not thrown not one touchdown?
Nope.
Not one touchdown.
Nope.
So I don't know what's going on with their offense. Like you said, it doesn't look right. I don't know what's wrong with it. Saquon still looks great, 88 yards, a touchdown. But when you have Devonta Smith at 53 yards, A.J. Brown at 27 yards, I mean, these are the guys that you want high production out of. Jalen Hurts, 101 yards passing. I mean, I don't know what to say about this offense. I mean, they're going through it. I don't know what to say.
Wait, so
have
Jalen Hurts only had 101 yards passing in that game, but what did he rush for?
He rushed for 15 yards.
So yeah, the Eagles' offense is completely stagnant.
Yeah.
And and it's a stagnant that's unacceptable. You have 2 number 1 wide receivers as your first and your second. You shouldn't be having that problem. I get you don't have Dallas Goedert, but Dallas Goedert is more of a Jason Witten kind of person. He's not going to be a burner. So no, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, there's in my opinion, there's no excuse for having no passing touchdowns at all. I mean, even Cam Ward has a touchdown pass.
Okay, don't join in and trying to find a way to bring Cam Ward into a conversation.
It was a really good one. And we're gonna be making our division picks here in a couple of minutes, which I think is gonna be really fun. We didn't get to do that last week. I wanted to do that on our first episode, but obviously, we got time constrained on just how action packed week 1 was. But in my opinion, I think Kansas City's in no trouble at all. The Chiefs and Andy Reid have always found a way to somehow produce magic late in the season. I don't recall them starting 0-4 or something and getting there, but it's to be determined at this point. Xavier Worthy's going to come back. The Chiefs are going to find a way. They'll make moves or something. Somebody will come in and they'll get healthy, and towards the end of the year, they'll be talked about. There's no question they'll be talked about all year long. They're the Super Bowl runners-up. But I just believe that Andy Reid, I actually really believe in Andy Reid. I think the whole thing stems around Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. When they're in adversity, they're playing Philadelphia, they're playing the Chargers. Those were 2 really, really tough teams to start the season, especially injured. You get into the nuts and bolts of the season. I'll have to look for next week and maybe can talk about that a little bit more about their schedule. But Kansas City for me just seems like they had a tough Chargers game. They had a tough Philadelphia team, injured, weren't able to figure it out. They played them tight both times. And later in the season, they're gonna find a way to make some magic, and the Chiefs will be there in the playoffs. I have no doubt the Chiefs are going to be in the playoffs this year. I really don't.
The only question because they're starting out 0-2 when you're talking about Kansas City, and they haven't started 0-2 in I want to say it's about 10, 11 years they haven't started 0-2. The biggest difference is, again, they will get better once you get Xavier Worthy on the outside and Rashid Rice comes back from his suspension. And I believe he comes back week 7. So he should be well rested. He had no injuries. It's only a suspension for his stupidity. So they will get better. So I know everyone's like, oh, you're a Cowboys fan. Andy Reid has been my favorite coach since he was on Philly. When Philly let Andy Reid go, I was praying to the Holy Spirit he would come to the Cowboys. But, when you got Jason Garrett out there, can you really pick up Andy Reid? No, you go with Jason Garrett. I mean, he's a solid 8-8 coach. Why would you go with Andy Reid? Personally, that's just my opinion. But no, Andy Reid is the guy that you look at, and as long as you've got Andy Reid, I don't really care who his quarterback is. Andy Reid alone will get you into the playoffs. And then you add Patrick Mahomes and then the weapons sprinkled in over the next couple of weeks, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I believe it, Kevin.
I got 2 things. So to answer your question, the last time that the Chiefs went 0-2 was 2014. Which
11 years. That's right on it.
I think 11 years.
Yeah.
Yep. Second thing is, I don't know why you're complaining about a coach. You got Mike McCarthy. He won a Super Bowl. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, that went well. You mean the guy going, oh, I called timeout there? Sorry. Couldn't see the play clock. What the? Okay. Yeah.
This is reminiscent of Brian Callahan not knowing to throw the challenge flag last week on an obvious completion. I don't know if you got
timeout. Why are we putting that on him? Every NFL,
the head coach has got to know when to throw he's got to know the rules. Cool. He said he misinterpreted the rules.
Okay. But every team has somebody that literally looks at it and calls down to the coach and goes, hey, baby girl, why don't you go ahead and throw a challenge flag on that? I'm sorry, but was that person on a pee break? No, they all have it. Yes, you can put it. You need to know the rule. That's fine.
What if
But
Brian
it's not just his
Callahan?
failure. That's an
No,
organizational failure.
what if Brian Callahan is like Mike Vrabel, where he wants complete control and he's told all of his staff, "Don't question anything. I got it."
And what if he's like Vince Lombardi? I can what if all day.
I rebuke that in the name of Jesus, as a former Titans player said once before. Don't know if you guys watched the Monday Night Football game last night. Wanted to touch on that briefly. Baker Mayfield sitting on the bench by himself, completely in the zone with his bandana on, sitting there the whole drive as Stroud is orchestrating this beautiful game-winning drive by the Texans. Baker Mayfield sitting there by himself the whole time, bandana in hand, comes off the bench, hadn't talked to anybody in probably, I think maybe it was 8 or 9 real-time minutes. Went out there and orchestrated this game-winning touchdown drive. What did you guys see in the Tampa Bay game specifically? Is Baker Mayfield the it factor for Tampa Bay? Richard?
He's a it factor. First of all, Baker Mayfield just shows that the Cleveland Browns will never have a good quarterback for I don't know how long, but they don't know what a good quarterback looks like. His fan base was letting him know that Baker Mayfield was it, so they suffered for that. Baker Mayfield is one of my favorite quarterbacks, and I believe he's tough. Nothing really seems to faze him. And I just absolutely love the way that he can just come in and control the offense and get it going. I said it last week, and I'll say it again this week. And as long as you have Bucky running the ball and White healthy and he's running the ball, the Bucs are a problem on the offense. That defense actually shows up. I think it looks really good. And now that you have to worry about a run game that can hit you from the first running back or the second running back, you have a problem that. And now you've got Baker Mayfield, who is a clutch quarterback, and I always think he has been, and he will continue to be that. So as long as you have him and those two running backs, the Bucs, I could say, could easily be in the NFC Championship. And I don't see a team that they can't hang with, and that includes Green Bay.
Whoa. Did you just call the an NFC Championship team?
Yes.
On the record.
I genuinely think that they can go to the NFC Championship without a problem. Yes, I do. You can't teach that kind of composure on an offense. You just can't. You either have it or you don't. And I genuinely think that Tampa Bay is a huge problem for people because their defense can grind you and they can run the ball. They can throw the ball. You have Mike Evans and Mbuku. I hope I said his name right this time.
No,
if I fuck up your name, I apologize.
Ibuka. No.
But either way, that team will be
Devin
dangerous.
Will
they can
us
win.
If we're wrong.
Yeah, they can win. They can win ugly games.
Devin, I want to get your take on this. First off, what do you think about the game and can you answer to this? I love Baker Mayfield, but can you answer to this monstrosity of Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers being back in the
what was
NFC
that? Sesame Street word of the day?
Are they going back to the NFC Championship, Devin?
I'm not gonna make any predictions as in what will happen.
Of course
in the
not,
playoffs.
because we picked the Packers, all of us, I think, and I don't.
Oh, yeah,
I'm looking
Packers
at
are
my
gonna win the
list,
Super Bowl.
and I is this a Packers Bucks NFC Championship? I gotta go back to Richard here and get some clarification before we go back to Devin here.
How about this? I'll make it easy for you, Devin. Tell me why the Bucks. All right, let's grant that the Packers are there. Can you tell me why the Bucks can't be there?
I haven't even said anything. Why are you coming at me like I'm saying that they're not going to be there?
No, I was just saying for your analysis, let's just assume Packers are there. But could you see a path in which they could make it that way?
Absolutely. If there's any team that I'm like, oh shit, here we go again, It's going to be the Niners. It's going to be the Bucks. It's because we always lose to these teams because you know why? Because like Richard said, they're composed. They know how to run an offense. They know how to be under these high stress situations. I mean, the Bucks are a very, very good team. Baker brings this it factor. He brings the fire to the offense. We've seen it when he stood up after looking like he was injured. He stood straight up to C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He was like, "What's up? Like, what you gonna do about it?" And then, yeah, I mean, he brings the fire to the offense. He's the workhorse of this offense. He's the reason why they put up such, great numbers every week. These teams are nothing to play around with. The Bucks, they made it last year, so why wouldn't they this year?
Yeah, he answered my question, is Baker Mayfield an it factor? And he literally said Baker Mayfield is an it factor. We've got some NFL rookie performances and rookie stuff that we want to go through, but before we do that, I want to go through y'all. We're gonna do this segment this week. We talked about picking division winners and why we're gonna pick them as division winners. All right, so I think that's where we need to go now, and we're gonna go ahead and pick where we think on the record. Now we're gonna be on the record of who we're picking. Now, pre-show I looked at our picks in the docs, and we're pretty spot on with a lot of stuff. So I think a lot of it is gonna be pretty similar. We'll start out with the AFC. Okay, we're going to go to the AFC East between the Buffalo Bills, the New England Patriots, the New York Jets, and the Miami Dolphins. And I'll tell you guys and I know you guys are with me, Buffalo Bills are winning this division. I don't have to go into a lot of why I believe that. I think Josh Allen is him. He's just got to get through some other hims. I think the Buffalo Bills win that division in the AFC East. Richard?
I agree with the Buffalo Bills, and I agree with Josh Allen, but I think it's also going to be very much about what James Cook does. He went off this past week. He looked absolutely amazing. I should know. I have him in my fantasy league. And he's the only guy I got left because everybody else is on IR because, why not? But I think it's not just going to be Josh Allen that helps the Bills go to the playoffs easily in this division. James Cook is going to be a massive part of that. I expect big things from him, and he's just going to cause headaches. And then you got Josh Allen, who can just do no wrong. So, yeah, I agree with the Buffalo Bills.
Devin?
I also got Bills Mafia. I just don't see anybody else that could really compete with the Bills. They're nowhere near the Bills' level of competition. The only team that I could possibly see is like the Patriots, but even them is like, meh. I mean, yeah, Bills all the way here for me. So
all three of the guys here on the Back Alley Sports Show are going with the Bills for the AFC East. We'll move to the AFC North. We have the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Cleveland Browns. I had hope to pick the Bengals, Devin. But due to the Joe Burrow injury, and throw all the signings away that we talked about earlier, Richard, because of this Joe Burrow injury, I'm going with Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens to win this division. What do you got, Devin?
I got the Browns, baby. No, I'm just playing. I got Ravens as well.
I know Joe Flacco is good in the playoffs.
I almost lost myself because I thought that you were putting a trick on us in the pre-show. So I thought that maybe you had a trick up your sleeve.
They're gonna cut Joe Flacco, and Shedeur Sanders is gonna bring him to the promised land, just like how everybody's planning it to be.
Well, he's not even second on the depth chart. It's Dillon Gabriel. Why is no one talking about Dillon Gabriel? He's the next man up.
Because we've seen him in the preseason. Sorry.
Devin has the Ravens. Is that what you're going with? You're going with the Ravens as well?
I'm also with the Ravens here.
With the Ravens. What do you got, Richard?
Yeah, I got nothing. Cincinnati without Joe Burrow, I don't see that happening. Pittsburgh's defense is solid, but again, you got Aaron Rodgers. He looked good in week 1. Week 2, it was really nothing there. The Browns have a great defense, but that offense is, well, why get them off the bus? They're not doing anything. So, yeah, Ravens all day.
Ravens across the board. So we're across the board, Bills, Ravens. We'll go to the AFC South. This is a division that I have no business picking because I have picked my beloved Tennessee Titans to finish last in the division because as a fan, there's a part of me that wants, yeah, we're going to get it together. The line's going to block. They're going to stop getting penalties. Calvin Ridley's going to catch the ball. Brian Callahan's going to challenge catches. None of that is probably going to fruition this year. I have no idea what's going to happen in Tennessee. I've got Tennessee actually last in the division this year, and for a lot of reasons that I didn't believe in the beginning of the season. I honestly, I was torn with this. Pre-show, I picked Texans because of CJ Stroud. I'm in show changing to what Daniel New York Football Giants Jones is doing in Indianapolis. They have not punted the ball in 2 weeks. That offense is soaring. I am picking the Indianapolis Colts. I had the Texans. I'm picking the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going on record with the Colts this season. Richard?
So, all of my picks were at the beginning of the season. I picked the Texans. I'm sticking with the Texans. But I do have concerns. CJ Stroud, I don't think has been looking all that well. The offense just in general hasn't really been clicking. There were questions about their defense. Their defense is looking better than their offense. So that is very much concerning to me. But I'm not jumping on the Jones wagon right now with the Colts. You would more likely convince me because of Jonathan Taylor, not because of Jones. Not that Jones hasn't been playing well. He's actually played very exceptional. The Titans are the Titans. I don't think we really have to go into that. I don't necessarily trust the Jaguars. I didn't trust Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, thank you. I haven't trusted him. I thought he was going to be a bust coming out of college. So I never really started with a whole lot of faith in him. That hasn't really wavered all that much. So I'm gonna pick the Texans. I think they get their offense not back on track as one of the best offenses in the league, but I think they'll do enough to make the playoffs, but I don't think they'll go very far.
Devin?
What?
Yeah, in my opinion, I think it's going to be neck and neck between the Jags and the Texans. I was looking at the division and it was like going back and forth from the Texans to the Jags, and I was like, okay, CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, kind of going through the depth chart like, any person would, and be like, okay, well, what team's better on paper? Because before the season started, that's the only thing you get to look at. So I chose the Jags just because with the upside of, Travis Hunter possibly, bringing this offense and defense around. Trevor Lawrence has always looked kind of sketchy, so that's going to take, a little bit of working on throughout the season. The other thing that's concerning me with the Jaguars right now is that they just traded away their backup running back, which was a little strange to me. So a little hurting at running back depth. So if Etienne goes down, we're going to be looking at maybe a little bit of a scary situation there with the running back room. But ultimately, I'm going to go with the Jags. I think the Jags can pull it out this year, so that's who I'm going with.
So we have Jags, Texans, Colts. We're actually all split on all three of those. I think the X factor for the Texans, Devin, you can help me because I'm a little bit blank right now. Their big time receiver, Nico Collins, is it? Nico Collins?
Correct.
That's the X factor for the Texans, honestly, is
They still have Tank Dell too. I don't know if he's back from injury though.
I agree with that,
But
Tank Dell. I just watching Indianapolis the last couple of weeks because I just heard yesterday that the Colts hadn't punted. They didn't punt in week 1 or 2, and I had to go back and watch those games to watch what they were doing, and they look like they're The Colts look like they're very fluent. It's almost reminiscent, Devin, for me, as like when Jonathan Taylor was there, and just how they could, with running the ball, they could do whatever they wanted to do, and that's the reason I'm taking the Colts. Let's go to the final division, the West of the AFC, and we just talked about the Chiefs and the Chargers. We got the Broncos and the Raiders out in Oakland. Gentlemen, as I previously stated, I'm taking Kansas City in this division until it's proven not to be, just based on that fact. I think Andy Reid, again, and Patrick Mahomes and that management, they will find a way to insert pieces to win these games and win this division. I think the Broncos are right there, and the Chargers too. It's really torn for me because if you look at Kansas City and their success as of late, if you read it in a book format, it's just a repeat, right? They've got Andy Reid, they've got Patrick Mahomes, they just keep winning. But what John Harbaugh is doing with Justin Herbert and what that Denver Broncos defense is doing, this, and I don't want to excerpt the Raiders, they have Bo Nix and a promising future. But this is probably for me the tightest division in all of NFL between the Broncos, Chargers, and Chiefs. And I just gotta believe in the Chiefs. Devin, what do you have?
Yeah, so I'm actually going Chargers with this one. A little bit of a nugget of information here. The Packers and the Chargers are the only defenses in the league that haven't given up a first half touchdown. So a little bit of information there for you guys, but I'm going Chargers. We've seen the surprise passing game from Justin Herbert week 1. The run game is still there. I just think that the offense is working really well right now, and with the defense holding up as it is right now, I don't see how they lose the division.
Richard, what do you have?
So I actually think this is the best division in the entire NFL right now. I actually think the Oakland Raiders are a dark horse here. I know I'm saying that after Geno Smith had one of his worst games, I think, of his career. But with Geno Smith, I don't think you're going to constantly get that. I think he's a very good quarterback. I would rank him in the top 15. Anywhere in the top 15, I would be okay with that. I'm going to go Kansas City here, but it's we're talking about experience right now. You still have a young team in Denver. I think Justin Herbert is playing, the best ball he's ever played. So, we have to see how that continues. No one's ever questioned him when it comes to pure talent at the quarterback position. I think he's always been in the top 10 as far as talent goes. The question for him is going to be in the playoffs. I think Denver has a great defense. Bo Nix, I think, has a long, bright future. But yeah, this is going to be Kansas City. It's going to be strictly off of the head coaching and the experience that the players have. So I got the Chiefs winning the division here. You're muted.
Yeah, that's a great pick there. I'm totally with you, Richard. We go to the NFC now. We'll start with the champion, Philadelphia Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. Are they
You're not
flying
even an
high
Eagles
again?
fan. Why the hell are you singing that?
Eagles, Eagles. And I can at least spell it. All right. I've got the Philadelphia Eagles not only winning their division, I've got them going back to defend their title. I've got the Philadelphia Eagles beating the Commanders, the Cowboys, and the Giants. And let me preface this by saying I think Dallas has some really good things going right now. I stated, Richard, with you before we started the show, I thought that it was one of the best trades in Dallas history because of what they freed up and what they could get from it in the future. Micah didn't want to be there. I talked to you about him sleeping on the bench in a preseason game. It was time for him to go. And I think that Dallas has turned the page, and I think they're going to be there. That game against the New York Giants really had me on the edge of my seat. And it was against a team in Russell Wilson that I called a journeyman 1 week ago right here on this show. But I think that Dallas is going to finish second right behind Philadelphia. And just based on what Philadelphia is, Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, those guys are going to get it going. For me, I think Philadelphia takes this division. Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Philly will take the division. I am going a little bit concerned about how that offense is looking right now. I said it last year, and I know a friend of mine who is a huge Eagles fan. After the Eagles won the Super Bowl and decided that he wanted to go 8 months in the history and go, well, your take didn't age well. Your team doesn't look good. I think they'll win the division, but you got two number one wide receivers. You got the best running back in the league. You have what's arguably the best offensive line in the league. There's no reason why your offense just looks lethargic. It just looks awful. I don't necessarily care about the Jalen Hurts being called elite. You don't need him to be elite. You don't need to call him elite because you can call him a Super Bowl champion. That's all that really matters. You just need him to be able to win the games. That defense is stout. So I have Philly coming in at number one. I think Cowboys could come in number two, depending on whether or not Matt Eberflus figures out that secondary and the safeties realize that, your safeties and wide receivers don't belong behind you. Well, if they figure that out, then yeah, they could be second in the league. I have no issues with that. Washington's going to have an issue with Daniels missing out. We don't know if that injury is going to compound itself a little bit more as the year goes on. But day to day, it still could be a problem. I mean,
the big
his
thing
size has always been an issue. So, and the Giants just are, well, they're the Giants. So,
right.
I expect nothing from
The
them.
big
What
thing
about
with
you, Dylan?
Washington is with the Taylor, the McLaurin injury or not injury, but just not performing as well for me. I mean, how big before we go to Devin on this, the wide receiver traits from Washington to Dallas. I mean, obviously CeeDee Lamb to me personally, Richard, this is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL.
Yeah. So if you want to talk about so when you have Terry McLaurin, for instance, for Washington, and you've got Deebo Samuels on the other side, I get that some people see Terry McLaurin and it's like, oh man, he's amazing, and he is, but he's just new to everybody else. But when you're playing inside the division is very much aware of what he can do, so they will lean very heavy to his side. Deebo Samuels, while an excellent wide receiver, he's a little bit long in the tooth, a little bit slower, body's beat up. So that I think that's why you will see Deebo with more receptions and more yards, mainly because everybody's worried about the sheer raw talent and speed that McLaurin has. So I think that's where it is, as opposed to where you have Pickens, who is, entering his prime. CeeDee Lamb is in his prime. So to compare Washington and Dallas isn't necessarily fair, as you have two wide receivers in their prime. You have one who's just entering the twilight of his years in Deebo Samuels after injuries. And I would entertain arguments that he's still in his prime. But Terry McLaurin, it's just he's going to be double teamed no matter what it is. So he's going to struggle throughout the year against defenses because they're just going to scheme against him. And they're just going to Washington's going to have to find a way to beat that.
Yeah. Devin, what do you got on that division as Richard goes on the record against his Cowboys with the Eagles? Who do you have?
I also have Eagles. I know the offense. I know that the Eagles' offense doesn't look great right now, but they'll figure it out. There's no doubt in my mind that if you win the Super Bowl, your offense just disappears within thin air. Obviously, something's wrong. They'll figure it out and they'll get back on the right track.
All right, so we're all Eagles on that one. I'm going to save the best division for last. We're going to go to the NFC South. The Falcons, Bucks, Panthers, and Saints. I've got the Buccaneers, and I talked to you guys about this a little bit earlier in the stream about Baker Mayfield being the it factor. And I think that Baker Mayfield is an it factor. I love I love what Atlanta's doing. I hate how they trolled Kirk Cousins out of making a lot of money and not playing. But I love what Atlanta's doing. And I've got Atlanta. Look, Atlanta for me is a complete dark horse. I think Atlanta, the Falcons this year they could shock a lot of people. It's not like Spencer Rattler in New Orleans where you're like, oh, he's this brand new, guy that's taken over and he's good. He's not. The quarterback for Atlanta, very, very good. Um, but I've got the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield winning this one. Devin?
I mean, let's not get it twisted. Michael Penix is a new quarterback. I still think he's still got a lot of room to grow, still a lot of things to learn. He got put into the Falcons offense very late in the season last year. I think it was like week 14 maybe. It was past 10. It was late. So personally, I think the Falcons have too much room to grow yet. Kyle Pitts has never really lived up to his expectations of being that true or tight end one. I mean, Bijan is just Bijan. He's incredible in the run and pass game. So there's no questions there. Drake London's always super good. The defense might scare you a time or two, but at the end of the day, I'm going Bucks. Bucks are just too big of a complete team right now to not make it to the playoffs. So I'm taking the Bucks to win the division here.
Richard, who do you have?
I agree with everything Devin just said about Atlanta as far as Michael Penix and his ability. I would put it more in the form of Atlanta is just now getting into the skillet to warm up and get going. Where Tampa Bay, they're just ready now. Carolina, not even in the same zip code of an NFL team right now. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I've been defending Bryce Young for 2 years. I'm kind of done with that. I don't think it's necessarily just a him problem. I think it's a Carolina problem. And then the Saints are there. I don't think anybody really knows what we have with the Saints. I don't think Rattler's the answer. I'm not saying he can't be the answer. I'm just not saying it right now. So as far as ability of the team, I'm going with Tampa. But yeah, Atlanta is very much on the rise, especially with Penix. I agree with Pitts. I feel like every year we keep saying this is the year that Pitts shows up and he's going to be something. And then we all just stand there looking, going, well, there's always next year. So yeah, I agree with that, but I think Bucks take this one.
All right. 2 divisions left to go. We're going to go to the NFC West, the Cardinals, the Rams, the 49ers, and the Seahawks. Each team in this division has started the season 2-0. This is the only division in all of the NFL where every team has won each of their games. I'm torn between who I really want to take, but I saw Matthew Stafford against us in the second half. I think Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams and Matthew Stafford and their running game. I think that the Rams take that division. Devin?
Yeah, I've got no doubt in my mind that the Rams are taking this one. I've seen Matthew Stafford play against the Packers for 10 plus years. So I know what he can do. I know what he brings to the table. Puka is a great receiver. Devontae Adams, who breaks my heart, who is on the Rams now, but I know what he can do very well. So I know that the offense is super good. Kyron Williams, I mean, he was one of the leading touchdown leaders last year for running backs. So he can put it in the end zone whenever he wants as well. Defense, they got a lot of bright stars over there. You got Jared Verse. You've got Brandon Fisk, who was a rookie last year, who was up there for Defensive Player of the Year as well. So I think that the Rams are going to be a good team for a long while yet. Depends on how long Stafford can play for, but they'll figure it out. They always figure it out. So I'm picking the Rams here.
Richard?
Yeah, I got Rams here. I'm not entirely sure how Sam Darnold will hold up the entire season with Seattle. They looked okay. The Cardinals always seem like the dark horse, especially the past couple of years. You have where Kyler Murray can look absolutely amazing one game, and then the next game he just doesn't show up. Again, Marvin Harris Jr. If we can see the consistency with him, but yeah, I don't foresee San Fran beating out the Rams, and I don't see the other teams being able to beat them out either. Great that they're all 2-0, but I think the Rams are going to come out. Their experience and Matthew Stafford is just head and shoulders above every quarterback in that division.
I'm waiting for a below 6 foot quarterback, aka Kyler Murray, to win a Super Bowl. I'm still waiting for that to come into fruition, and I believe in what Arizona is doing right now, but in my opinion, like fan standpoint, with the Tennessee Titans small market, like I don't think a lot of people are thinking about Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals right now, personally. We got this last division, and Devin, I know you're going to like this right before we end the show. The NFC North. Jon Snow has come out, and he's picked a division winner, and it wasn't the Packers. It was the Packers. I'm picking the Packers to win the NFC North over the Detroit Lions. I love what Dan Campbell's got going in Detroit. This is the best time to be a Detroit Lions fan. But it's also the worst time to be a Detroit Lions fan because Jordan Love and what Green Bay has going on right now, I think this year, this is where Green Bay, I think personally, this is where the Packers flex their muscles. I think that it's been a long time waiting since Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers to have a quarterback that, in my opinion, is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And when you talk about best quarterbacks in the league, Jordan Love's on my radar. I love Jared Goff. I think what he did at the Rams, amazing. Super Bowl, amazing. Switch Matthew Stafford in for Jared Goff. The Detroit Lions can score 50 points at will. I know they didn't do that in week one, Devin, but they with St. Brown and company, these guys can score at will. In my opinion, Richard, I'll let you go first. I think the Detroit Lions finish second. And I think Jordan Love and the Packers, I think they get it done this year. I think they win the division.
Okay. And you can look in the production notes, but I did make sure that I emphasized my picks were at before week one, before all the Parsons trade and everything. I had the Lions. I still think they can pull it out. I do think that the Lions are going to suffer from brain drain. They lost both of their offensive and defensive coordinator in the offseason. That's going to be a problem. So I'm going to stick with my preseason pick with the Lions. I think they'll figure it out, and I think there'll still be an issue for Green Bay in the upcoming season. I think Lions could still pull it out, but yeah. So I'll stick with my Lions. My preseason.
That's
pick.
A big pick right there, Devin. What do you got? Yeah, I know. Look at he's not happy right now.
Obviously, we're picking the Packers here. Vikings lose their quarterback. The Lions, Dan Campbell can stick with the Applebee's commercials. He's not doing nothing this year. And you know what? We still own the Bears, as Aaron Rodgers famously said, and the Bears still suck. So shout out to Craig on that one. But yeah, Packers definitely winning the division on this one. No questions asked. We'll see you in the playoffs.
See you in the playoffs. Next week, we're going to tailor off of this, and we're going to make our playoff picks. Want to go over a couple of rookie and NFL performances before we end the show here, just to hit on a couple I wanted to talk to you guys about. Russell Wilson, that Giants game, 450 yards, 2 yards shy of his career total record for him personally, 3 touchdowns and a pick. And then Malik Neighbors in that same game, 9 receptions, 167 yards and 2 touchdowns. What do you guys have to say about those 2 performances? Richard?
Again, Russell Wilson, yeah, it's a great It was a great showing for him, especially against a battered Cowboy secondary and everything. But again, like I said earlier, the question on whether or not Russell Wilson can play a game was never really a question. It was consistency. So he didn't look good in week 1. He looked great in week 2. I project he's not going to look great in week 3. So I would say that's fine. Malik Neighbors again. Malik Neighbors is a wonderful wide receiver, so I would think he'll do just fine. But yeah, he looked great again against a battered secondary of the Cowboys. So he's going to be very heavily dependent on his quarterback. So if Russell Wilson can't figure it out, his numbers are gonna drop. I don't expect it's going to stay that way for either one of them. And not because I'm a Cowboys fan, but just generally, secondaries aren't nearly as beat up as the Cowboys secondary right now. So great for them. They did look amazing. So did Robertson. Robertson had a great game against the Cowboys, but this is probably a one and done kind of thing. I would project coming out of Wilson, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, Devin, what do you have on your rookie and NFL performances for this week?
Yeah, so all I'm hearing out of Richard right now is excuses. I mean, I don't know what's up with that, but numbers.
You weren't here.
Speak.
You weren't here. I gave perfect analysis of it. So get back.
Numbers speak for themselves. I do agree with Richard. I do think this is an outlier game for Russell Wilson. I don't see this happening anytime soon for him again. Some other notable names, we got Jonathan Taylor with 215 all-purpose yards, 165 of those were on the ground. Huge game for him. Goff bends the Bears over the table and spanks them on the booty for 5 touchdowns. Only 334 yards. When I was looking at that stat sheet, I was like, 5 touchdowns is a lot. 334 yards kind of doesn't like weigh out the 5 touchdowns. You'd think if you have 5 touchdowns, you're throwing for minimum 400 yards. Other notable names, we got James Cook, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns, as Richard was saying. Great performance for his fantasy team. Great game for him. Yeah. Roquan Smith, a little bit of a shout out to the defense here. 15 total tackles and a touchdown.
Yeah, 15 tackles and a touchdown. Going into the end of the show, guys, thank you everybody for hanging out with us on our second ever episode of the Back Alley Sports Show. I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to this coming week, along with Richard's and Devin's final thoughts. This week, I'm going to be looking at the 5 quarterbacks that are playing backup positions. I'm going to be looking at those quarterbacks, and next week I'm going to be breaking down how they performed. I want to see how they help their teams propel to the next level and being in place of some teams that, you know, Joe Burrow, obviously, I'm going to be watching Jake Brownlee a lot to see how he performs for that team. Richard, final thoughts. What are you looking for this week?
So for this week, I think the biggest thing we need to look at would be Geno Smith needs to have a return to form game against Washington, and Washington is very much a team that he could do that with. I mean, you can't sit there and have 3 interceptions in that game. Geno Smith just looked terrible. In every facet of the game, he just looked out of sync. So I'm looking for him to come back out against Washington and say, hey, I'm here, and the Raiders can make a run. Like I said, I think they're a dark horse. I think they're better than what people are projecting them to be. So for me, it's going to be, what can Geno Smith do to redeem him and Pete Carroll over at the Raiders personally?
Devin, what are you looking for this week in the NFL?
So one thing that I'm going to hit on is, can we trust Daniel Jones going into the future? 2 back-to-back weeks, 250 yards passing, 2 wins. Can we trust him going forward? Is this going to be the new norm for him? I'll be watching him. Games outside of that, Packers-Browns, we got Micah Parsons versus Myles Garrett, the 1 and 2 ends of the league going at each other. Who will have a better game there? Rams and Eagles is going to be a fun game to watch, and I think Texans and Jags will be a fun game to watch, since we were both kind of torn on Texans and Jags with our division picks. So those are the games I'll be watching this weekend.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. This has been another edition of the Back Alley Sports Show, our second ever episode. Richard, farewell. Devin, farewell. Appreciate you guys tuning in tonight with us. We'll break down some more NFL content next week. Who knows what's going to happen? We got a lot of content that we're going to produce out there for you. Appreciate everybody watching. This has been another edition of the Back Alley Sports Show. So long.